right, good morning. I wanted to show how I preview motifs in Illustrator so that I can get an idea of what a blanket would look like if I was going to repeat the same motif a number of times to get a certain size or shape of blanket. So with this Persian tiles blanket that I'm working on, the pattern from Janie Crow, what I've done is I did this octagon. Excuse me. I've done this octagon and I scanned it on my flatbed scanner. Now I have a large flatbed scanner that can accommodate the size of this octagon, which is almost about 12 inches. So I've scanned it, but you can take a really good picture with your cell phone or whatever if you want to try this out, if you happen to know how to use Illustrator. And then what I did was I placed it into Illustrator by going up to File, select Place, and then find wherever your picture is, and there it is. And then just hold down and drag to enlarge it like this. Then what I do is I tend to not lock it, but I click off of it, and then I go to my Polygon tools over here, or my shape tool here, and I select Polygon tool. Now, when I click and drag, I want to make sure that I want to hold down the Alt and Shift key so that it creates a uniform hexagon. But first, I'm going to click and drag a hexagon. An octagon. Excuse me. And I'm also going to hit the up and down arrows, because if you hit the up and down arrows, you can change the shape of your polygon to a hexagon, a pentagon, a square, etc. So we want 8 sides to be an octagon. So that's how you would change the sides of the polygon. Now I'm going to hold down the Shift and Alt keys simultaneously, and it'll draw out an octagon from the center out. And I'm going to get one about the size, more or less, of the motif that I have here. And I'm going to give this a little bit of a color, just a light color so we can see it. I'm going to pick a gray, maybe even a lighter gray than that, just to give it a little bit of so we can actually see the octagon itself. And if I wanted to see through it, I can adjust the transparency and the transparency panel, which can be found up here under Windows. Go to Transparency. I'll have to do it again to open it up again. And then the transparency panel opens, and then you can adjust the opacity of this shape or layer so that it becomes see-through. Selecting my arrow, I'm going to click off of this, and I'm going to place it and readjust the size. And now, in order to keep the shape consistent, I can just hold on the Shift key, and it holds the constraints so that it comes down, shrinks uniformly all the way around. And, like I said, this isn't a perfect scan, but, you can get an idea of what it's going to look like. And then you can place with the centering of it, more or less. Once you've done this, place the octagon where you need it in your over your motif. Then you select both of them, and then right-click, select Make Clip Masking, and it'll isolate the motif itself. So now you have this motif that you can repeat to create. If you make a move that you don't want or desire, just click Ctrl-Z and it'll take it to where it was before you actually made the mistake. Then you want to take this motif, hold one of the corners, shrink it down to size a little bit so it's more manageable. And then you can start creating the number of repeats to make the pattern look like a blanket, or etc. So in order to do this, you want to hit the Alt key, and you see the double arrows there. That means it's going to make a copy of it. And then you drag it. And as you begin to drag, you press down the Shift key, and it'll line them up in sync, and it'll intersect them. Once you do that once without touching anything else, hit Ctrl-D to repeat the motif as many times as you want across the board. And then you'll have your horizontal repeat of that. And you can repeat it as many times as necessary to fit the pattern or the width of your blanket that you're going to make, if it's going to be 7x6 or 8x4 or etc. Once you've created this repeat, then you can select all of them and right click and group. Let me see if you can right click and group. No, we can't click and group, but we can hit Ctrl-G and it'll group them. It should be able to group them. Ctrl-G and that grouped them. But Ctrl-G will group them, and if you want to ungroup them, you go and right click and select ungroup to separate them. Now, just like we did the copy of the motif, now we're going to copy the rows of the motif. So we're going to select them all. Let's see if we can, okay, select them all. And then we're going to hit the Alt key again to, there we go. I'm going to hit the Alt key and you'll see the double arrows, and then you just start dragging down. And then as you're doing that, press the Shift key and it'll correct the alignment. Release everything. Then hit to repeat that that motif, to repeat that action. Ctrl-D, D, D, D several times, and there you have it. There is a preview of what your motif would look like if you were to repeat it a number of times, so that you get something that looks like the shape or size of your blanket. I'm trying to, okay, here we go. I was going to show you what I did with this motif here. I removed one so I can unmask it, etc., and put it in here. But what I did is I added another layer in the background to play with colors. So I selected the rectangle square and I made a rectangle to cover the entire size of the blanket like this. I added a little bit of color. Any color is fine. Doesn't matter. It'll fill that shape. And then what I do is I like to, I click it and hit arrange, and I'll send it to the back. And that'll put the green rectangle behind the motifs, and you'll be able to see the colors behind it. What I need to do first in this case is remove the previous, let's see, let me remove those. Layer. And there's the green one, the green layer that I put in there. So then you can say, okay, well, if I want green squares to go with this, this is what it would look like with my motif. You can also select colors that are in your motif to give you an idea if you want to make it more harmonized, or so that it looks more like it all goes together. You can select this eyedropper here. In the icon buttons here on the left, you select the eyedropper, and that'll sample a color within the motif that you want to choose. So for example, this bluish grayish turquoise, I selected, well, it actually selected a gray color. So let me zoom in here. So if I select this turquoise here, click on that, then the squares will be turquoise. Or if I want them to be pink, then I'll select that. Or if I want whatever the background of that motif was back here, from the scanner bed, that's kind of like an off gray color. Control minus to shrink it, Control plus to increase the zoom. But I just wanted to share this so that if you haven't wanted to have an idea what your motifs would look like as a blanket, or if you want to arrange them in a certain way, or even if you have multiple motifs, different sizes and shapes, you can create one of each, scan them, do the mask clipping around them so that it isolates the shape, and then you can create whatever you need to get a preview of your blanket. I thought this might be helpful. I just wanted to share this. Enjoy. Let me know what you think. Thanks.